All right, and we're back to another great edition of Maxin TV. I have the esteemed one and only David Glickman on the show. David, thanks so much for joining the show.
My pleasure.
So for those of you who don't know David, if you've ever been in New York City and you've looked at a building, chances are David Glickman has had his hands on there one way or another.
Probably.
And as you can see in his background, he's currently in Midtown Manhattan. So very busy man, made the time to come on the show. So again, thank you so much for joining.
Anytime.
So just to get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do now and everything that you're involved with currently?
So the name of my company is GEA Consulting Engineers. GEA stands for Glickman Engineering Associates. When I first started out, I was Glickman Engineering. And as I grew, and I have partners, so we changed it to GEA. We are what's known as an MEP consulting group. MEP stands for Mechanical, Electrical, Plumbing. When anybody builds a building, the three main professionals are an architect, a structural engineer, and an MEP engineer. So we design all the heating, air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, sprinkler, fire alarm, low voltage data systems, that kind of thing. We basically make the building work. So the architect makes it look pretty, the structural engineer makes it stand up, and we make it operate. We specialize mostly in new construction, a lot of high-rise residential, office buildings, retail centers. If you've been to a retail store in any mall in New York City area, chances are that I've been there designing it.
Yep.
Name a national retailer, I've probably done them. Thank God I've been very blessed.
Yeah. So how did this all start? Because you know, I don't even know how many many people I even know that do what you do, honestly.
Right.
Because how did you even get involved with this?
So when I was in college, I didn't know what I was going to do, and I happened to get a summer job repairing air conditioning, working for an air conditioning company. I was a schlepper. I was an assistant, and I helped the guy out. Passed me the wrench, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I liked it, and I looked into it. And when I was looking for a major in college, someone told me about engineering, and I decided to do that. So I changed from Yeshiva University to Columbia Engineering. And I completed with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. When I got out of school, it was 1990, which was one of the past recessions, and half my class from Columbia went to Detroit to design cars. And
wow,
New York City was dead. There was a real recession. So I ended up working for an air conditioning contractor because people always need air conditioning and heating. And after about 6 months, I got a job with an engineering consulting firm. And it went from there. So I grew and I worked larger projects, and I was fortunate to land on my feet, after several different jumps around the industry.
What kept you in New York though? Like a lot of people, they went to Detroit, and I guess thank God that you didn't go there, because clearly stayed in like the market for every building you can possibly imagine. Why did you stay then?
Well, New York is the center of the universe, as we all know.
I agree.
The simple answer is family. My whole family is here. My sisters, my parents, my in-laws, and they are all in New York City. So, it's the place to be. It's the place to be. And from here, you can do work all over the country and all over the world. So it's really, New York is it.
Right. I totally agree. As a Mets fan, I totally agree with that.
Sorry to hear that.
I know, right? At least I'm not a Jets fan. I'm a
Giants fan, so.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, you and my dad will get along just nicely, handsomely.
Yeah.
So you were working for an HVAC company, primarily commercial, I assume.
Commercial and residential. The first job that I worked was really, they also did some single-family homes. I actually, in the summer of 1989 or 88, Iran or Iraq, forgive me, invaded Kuwait that summer.
Okay.
And I happened to be doing a HVAC installation at the home of the foreign minister of Kuwait out on Long Island. And I was there for like 4 weeks.
Wow.
It's like 17 air conditioning systems in this mansion. And helicopters were coming in and out, with all the dignitaries, happening because Kuwait was being invaded, and the foreign minister of Kuwait was living there. So
Wow.
I remember that fondly. So yeah, so it was a lot of residential, but very high-end residential, a lot of mansions, and then small commercial. Yeah.
That's like $1 million HVAC job for that, no?
Uh, more than that. More than that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, just my house, which is, normal 2,600 square foot house, one air conditioning, $6,000. The guy has 17 air conditioning in his mansion,
17 air conditioning.
Wow.
We did the pool heating, and we did the tennis court, and we did everything. Yeah.
Wow. So
indoor tennis court.
indoor, of course, without saying. So essentially you were doing all the bigger and bigger jobs, and then I guess it came to a point where you're like, I can do this on my own.
So what happened was I was working for a large consulting firm. Out of the air conditioning contractor, I found a job with a large consulting firm in Manhattan, with whom I still have affiliation. I'm actually friendly with the chairman of the company that I worked for as a kid. And I was offered a job. I was recruited to a job to do energy consulting. HVAC design, mechanical, electrical, plumbing design goes hand in hand with energy, especially nowadays. So I was recruited, and I went to work for a firm that had a New York office that was based out of Boston. And after about a year there, they decided to close their New York office and keep it in Boston. And they offered for me to move to Boston. And since, as I said earlier, I'm a New York City boy, I was like, thanks, but no thanks. And by that time, I had already had a couple of my own clients. This was the age where, there were no cell phones yet, only if you were like a doctor, and people had beepers. And at work, we weren't allowed to wear our beepers at work. So I would take the handle off the back of the beeper and put it on buzz and
Nice.
on vibrate in my pocket. But I actually started out doing home inspection. I would do 3 home inspections on a Sunday, and during the summer I would do them in the evening. And I started getting a couple of little jobs here and there. And then when I didn't want to move to Boston, I went out on my own. I was actually offered a job. I was actually traveling to Teaneck every day.
Wow.
To an office on Teaneck Road. And
that's hilarious.
And for about 6 months, and then the guy realized that I was doing my own side work, and then he cut me down to 3 days a week. And after that, I went out on my own. So the way I grew my business is I used to go to all the people in the city that I used to work with, and I used to get their crumbs. If they would have like these huge jobs and they didn't have time to do the smaller jobs, like a small office fit out or something like that, I would get their crumbs, and from there it grew. Yeah.
Wow. So what was it like when you finally went out on your own? Was it like a very nerve-wracking type of deal? Were you married at the time? Like, what was going on in your life?
Yeah. So I was young. Everything I just described happened when I was like 26, 27. I had just bought a house, and I had to do 3 to 4 home inspections a week in order to make my mortgage payment, because my salary wasn't cutting it. And I guess I was young and stupid, and I didn't have any fear. Younger people don't have any fear, and I just went out there and did what I had to do. And one thing led to another. I mean, one job led to the next job. I started getting, people would say, "Oh, can you design a 50-story building?" I'm like, "Of course."
Of course you can. Yeah. What's the difference between that and a single family home?
and I would figure it out later. But I mean, that's an extreme example. But I did get bigger and bigger jobs. A small office building, a small apartment building, and I had an office on Central Avenue in Cedarhurst above a clothing store. And when I realized that I would get to my office every morning at 8 o'clock, and when I realized that every day between 9 and 10 I was taking the train into the city for various appointments, I said, it's time to move into the city. So I found an office in the city, and that was 6 months before 9/11.
Oh my gosh.
And I've actually been in the same building for the last 20 years. I moved floors, and then I took more space, and I've been in the same building for 20 years. Yeah.
Right. So the office you're in currently, that's the same exact place that you've kind of you obviously moved up. You just said you got a bigger office space, but essentially everything's the same.
I started out on the 19th floor. I was sharing space, and then I'm on the 11th floor, and I have the whole floor. First I had half the floor, then I took little wedges of the floor additional. Now I have the whole floor.
You have an entire floor. Where are you located?
It's 545 8th Avenue between 37th and 38th. So
Wow,
it's really central.
That's near B&H Photo, right?
B&H is on 34th
39?
and 9th. It's a short walk. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sure. There's a falafel place there.
We're actually doing a lot of not anymore.
Oh, really?
We're actually building a lot of buildings for B&H. B&H is also a developer of real estate.
Really?
It used to be a secret. It's not a secret anymore. But we're fortunate to do a lot of work for B&H as well. We've built about 6 or 7 residential buildings for them already.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All in the city or elsewhere?
No, all in Brooklyn. All in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially, you were grinding. You were getting the crumbs originally. That led to a bigger job, which led to a bigger job. Was there a moment where you just like, holy hell, what the hell just happened? Some guy came to me and wants me to build a 50-story building. When was that moment?
There actually was a moment. My first cousin was working for a accounting office, and the owner of the accounting office also developed real estate. So my cousin referred me to him, and this guy brought me to his architect's office to say, hey, this guy's a mechanical engineer. So I thought, and it was an architecture firm called Meltzer Mandel. I don't think they're around anymore. David Mandel passed away since. But they were a very respectable, large architectural firm. And I sat in some meetings, and I'm a good fudger. I knew what to say and when to say it. And I ended up getting the job. And as we're walking out of the meeting, this guy, David Mandel, walked over to me in my ear, and he said, don't screw it up. And that's when I realized that, I'm in a little bit too deep, but I'll swim, and I'll swim well. So that was my first building. It wasn't a 50-story building. I think it was a 50-unit apartment building, a 50, 60-unit apartment building, which is also pretty significant.
Yeah.
The building is still around. It's in Brooklyn. It's in Fort Greene, still operating. So,
Well, do you ever like just drive by like some of your first buildings and just tell yourself like, wow, I actually did this?
I used to. Now it's just a little bit passe already. I don't want to,
right,
be a braggart or anything like that, but we've really done some significant buildings. I mean, if you ever been to Yankee Stadium, there's a shopping mall called Bronx Terminal Market. It's like, 2 million square feet. We did all of that, and all the tenants, on the Belt Parkway, there's a huge shopping center, Gateway in Brooklyn, did all that. We did a huge shopping center by Co-op City. Apartment buildings on Park Avenue, on Greenwich Street downtown.
Wow.
Right on 34th Street across from Penn Station, we just did a big building. So it used to be like, and I used to drive around with my family in the car, and I did that building and that building, and after a while they were like, Dad, we know you did that.
Right.
So
that's why you come on Maxin TV, so you can talk about it more.
Yeah. In fact, there's a building, 9 West 57th Street is a very large building. And the owner, Sheldon Solo, who just passed away, was kind of like a bit of a mentor for me, and we did a few buildings for him. And I always tell the story that we would be in a meeting and 20 people were sitting around the table, and at that time it was like all suits. We were all wearing suits. 15 years ago now,
right?
Nobody wears a suit anymore.
I'm from Miami. Nobody wore pants.
Right. Long pants. Right. Long pants. So. We're sitting in a conference room, 20 people, and all of a sudden, somebody brings in his lunch, and he's eating tuna, and it's popping out of his mouth, and it's like spitting on everybody. But listen, when you're a billionaire, you can eat tuna in front of anybody else when everybody else is starving. So the perks of being a billionaire. So, but he was a good mentor to me. He just passed away. And
sorry to hear that. Yeah. What were some of the lessons he taught you?
One really important lesson was that always hire the best person for the job. And it might seem like common sense, but often, and especially as you grow, I hate interviewing employees. I'm really bad at it, and I hate interviewing employees because I'm not a schmoozer. You're obviously a schmoozer because you have a show, but I'm not a schmoozer. I schmooze when I have to.
Right.
if the guy's going to give me a job, I'll schmooze his head off, you know.
Sure.
But when you let your partners or your department heads interview people, sometimes they'll see somebody as a threat to themselves if somebody's too good, and you have to make sure that not to let those people go, and always hire the best person for the job.
You know, I don't think you can stress that enough, and I think you would think that it kind of is common sense, but I've dealt with a lot of, let's say, career coaches and people like that and recruiters, and they've told me, one in particular, a client of mine, he's near the Silicon Valley area, and he told me that there are people, CTOs, chief technology officers of big companies, that if they interview someone, I'm sorry, not just interview someone, but if they're looking for a solution for their business, and someone works for Oracle and another one works for a lesser known company, but that company has a better solution and less money for them, the CTO will actually pick the bigger company because it'll look better on his resume, because then he'll use it to get more money somewhere else. I thought, first of all, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Right.
You would think that they would do it for the betterment of the business, but apparently it doesn't work that way. And so he's using it, and then when that CTO goes and interviews somewhere else, yeah, it's nice on his resume. You can see on the interview, but when you interview, I don't think there's, you're getting the worst guy for the job. Essentially, he's doing the worst thing for your business.
Right. Well, when I do interview somebody, if I interview somebody who has skills that I don't have, or if somebody's skills are better than my skills, I'm going to hire him in a second. I'm going to do whatever I can to get him in the door, because, if I can learn from this guy, that's everything to me. Because if a day goes by and you don't learn something new, it's not really a good day. You should be learning every day new stuff about your industry, about everything. So I strive to find people who can teach me something. Some days I'm like, nah, I know. I mean, I can design any size building on the back of a napkin, every system, every pipe, wire,
right,
ducts, etc. But if somebody could teach me something, then I want to learn from that guy, and I'm going to hire him if I can.
I think there's no surprise why you are where you are, honestly, why you're the man when it comes to anything buildings in New York City. To not feel threatened and you'd rather learn from the guy, I think there's a lot. Can't be stressed enough.
Yeah, I don't feel threatened at all. I mean, if I can learn from the guy, yeah, for sure.
So how many employees do you have currently?
So now we're 40 people. We had been closer to 50. The recession, the COVID has hurt us a bit. We were fortunate to get PPP. A lot of our work is hotels and retail, and it has suffered. Also high-end condos. $3,000-4,000 a foot condos was a big part of our business, and condo sales are rough, and retail is rough and stuff. So we had to pare down a little bit. We're still 40 people strong. In September, October, November, I had a lot of people coming into the office. Socially distanced, of course. I put up glass partitions everywhere between desks, etc.
They can't just get their tuna sandwich everywhere like normal.
That doesn't work. But
right.
In December, in the end of November, when the numbers were getting bad, then we told everybody, back to work from home. And the numbers are still bad, so that's where people are right now. But I live in the city, so I just take a city bike to work in the morning. So
really nice.
Well, nice. I go to a synagogue right here on 34th Street every morning at 6 a.m. So I do Uber every morning because I'm not taking a bike at 6 a.m. But usually home, I either walk or take a city bike. So
yeah. When I drove into the city recently and I was able to park on the side, it's like a ghost town, right? What's it like? Right now.
During the April, May, June, I as a hardened lifelong New Yorker, I've seen things that I've never seen before out in public, things I just can't mention, and it was very, very sad. Yes. It's gotten a little better. People have gotten back to work, to some extent, but there are still a lot of people on the street that were not there before. I'm not going to get political or anything, but these people are having hard times like everybody else, you know. But it's been quiet. I mean, you know, like everybody else, all my meetings are on Zoom, Teams, etc.
Yeah.
It's actually been a pleasure. Anybody you talk to nowadays is like terrific. You don't have to, you know, schlep across town or across the country for an hour meeting. You just get on a Zoom meeting, and it's fantastic, like we're having now.
Yeah.
And I think it's saved a lot of time. But I'm communicating with my people. I'm texting and Teams and messaging them all day long. Every single employee every morning gives their supervisor a list of their daily tasks, and it's followed. So we really watch everybody, because to be honest, I'm not the most trustworthy guy when it comes to people working remotely. I should be more trustworthy. It's just unfortunately in my nature that I'm not. So I want to know what people are doing, and my people know that. So they really keep an eye out. You know, I am the guy who will call you up and like, you know, why aren't you at your desk? You know, that kind of thing. So because, you know, if I'm working hard, everybody else should be working hard also.
Sure.
Plus,
No, 100%.
You know, we have deadlines. You know, people. You know, it's like, you know, when I have a deadline, it's because, you know, somebody's waiting there to hang that duct or run that pipe. And if we don't get our work out, then people are sitting there on the job idle, and that is money, and owners
Cost
yell
money,
at me.
right?
Well, I get yelled at by owners all day long. I have very thick skin. You know, they yell at me all the time. So yeah. So things got to get done. You know.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of it also is reputation, right? Because you've been very successful at doing what you're doing. People that want to build something, let's say a client of yours, he's talking to a friend of his, and the friend is like, "Yeah, I want to build a building. Who should I contact?" Contact David, because he got it done, right?
I have had my ego inflated often by people telling me that, hey, so and so told me to call you. You're the only guy that can build my building. You know, that kind of thing. But another lesson that I've learned is that if you make all your clients happy, or rather, if you don't have any unhappy clients, you're doing something wrong. You got to have a few unhappy clients, because either you're not charging them enough, you're giving it to them too quickly, and another client is suffering. You have to have some unhappy clients. But you know, if most of your clients are happy, then the work is repeat business. This is a word of mouth industry. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing. I know what all my competition is doing. If I win a job over another of my competing companies, I'll call up that owner and say, you know, suck it, you know, and he'll do the same thing with me, because I have a rapport with all my colleagues in my competing firms. We have a good relationship. It's competitive, but in a good way.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah. So you can't make everybody happy, but you got to make enough of them happy that they give you repeat business.
Yeah. Has anyone ever called you where you almost dropped the phone? Like somebody like a very famous person like Donald Trump called you and be like, "I want you to build my building." Like, has anything like that happened?
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah. We built a building for him on 42nd, and that was pretty jaw dropping. But I usually don't talk to guys like that. I'll talk to the guy that works for that guy, you know, because I'll talk to the guy who's head of construction,
right?
You know, and that kind of thing. So
right.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could think of. I mean, I've spoken to people who work at very prestigious companies that are the head of construction of prestigious companies, and that gets me going. Like somebody who works for Helmsley Spear, you know, or JLL, somebody like that, you know, who's high up there. That gets me going.
Yeah. So to date, what are some of the biggest projects you've ever done?
We have two. So completed projects are probably the two retail projects that I mentioned earlier that are a million plus square foot projects: the Bronx Terminal Market and Gateway in Brooklyn along the Belt Parkway. Those projects are just massive.
They're massive.
You know.
Yeah.
We did a project in Flushing, Queens, which is the base is 22 restaurants and one tower of residential, one tower of hotel.
Wow.
And we had to thread 22 kitchen exhaust ducts through the hotel and the kitchen exhaust ducts had to terminate on the roof where people were lounging by the pool. And we had to
That's
make sure that
wonderful.
people lounging by the pool didn't smell the kitchen smells.
Of course.
But in terms of pure size, we have 2 million square foot projects going on in Brooklyn right now. All have components that are affordable housing, because any sizable residential project right now will have an affordable housing component.
Sure.
Because that's the hot button right now. And all the incentives, et cetera. I don't pretend to know all the ins and outs of the real estate financing side of things. I hear all the button words, the 421A and MIH and all these senior housing credits and stuff like that, but I don't pretend that I could navigate it myself. But all these large projects, million square foot projects, are all affordable housing components. And yeah, we're doing a couple of very, very large projects like that. So we're very excited.
Yeah. So what are some of the major retailers that you have good relationships with that you build for them all the time?
We just finished the Wegmans out in Brooklyn.
Oh, nice. Nice.
New York City people don't really know Wegmans. It's like
I know Wegmans very well, actually. Yeah, sure.
So we just finished the Wegmans that's in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. So that was, but we've done Shoprites, Home Depots, Whole Foods. We did the Whole Foods in, you ever been to Time Warner Center? We did the Whole Foods that's in Columbus Circle, the Time Warner Center, which is happens to be right over the pool for the gym, for Equinox Gym, and we had all these kitchen pipes coming down right on top of the pool.
Nice.
So we had to conceal those.
Nice.
Bed Bath and Beyond. It just goes on and on, you know. Yeah.
Wow. That's of course.
Applebee's, restaurants galore. Yeah.
They offer you a free steak. I know you can't eat it, but like, they ever offer you a free steak or something like that, or
you know,
or as long as they pay their invoice.
It's funny. At the Port Authority, we did the Heartland Brewery, which just actually recently went out of business. Corner of 41st and 8th. So
Okay.
it's right on the avenue, 8th Avenue, and they only closed. I know the owner from one of my networking groups. But if you ever see the ad for Heartland Brewery, they call the guy Farmer John because he loves beer.
Okay.
But he's a regular New York guy, not a farmer at all. He just loves beer. So I happened to be there testing some equipment on the day that they were opening the restaurant, and they were training the waiters. And they laid out like 15 different dishes to show the waiters what the dishes are supposed to look like. This is a hamburger. This is a quiche. I don't know. This is pasta. This, and you know, and at the end, all the dishes were laying there, and the guy caught me looking at it, and he's like, "You want them?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Nobody's going to eat it?" He's like, "Nope, they're going to go right in the garbage."
Oh my gosh.
So the guy's like, "Want me to pack it up for you?" I'm like, "Yeah." So he packed it up for me. I put it out of my office in the back, and it was gone in 5 minutes, like the Bermuda Triangle. Like 15 different dishes from Heartland Brewery. But yeah,
I think as a Jewish person, you can't inwardly allow food to go to waste, right?
Right. There was a restaurant on Central Avenue in Cedarhurst where somebody referred me to him, and the restaurant was known as having a smoky interior. The kitchen hood wasn't working well, so when you go in there, the food was delicious, but it's like smoky. So somebody told him about me. The guy called me up and it's like, "I want you to come fix my problem. I can't pay you, but I feed you."
Okay.
So I went in there. I went on the roof. I told him what his problem was. He fixed it, and I walked out of there with like bags of food, you know, and brought it home to my family. Yeah. So
that's
so
hilarious.
I've been paid in food. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Hey, that's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal.
Not bad. I think my hourly rate would pay for a lot more food than that, but that's
Definitely. Well, anyways, this has been fun. This has been unbelievable, and I really appreciate you coming on. And just ending off, any message you would tell an aspiring entrepreneur who wants to, I guess, start their own business?
You know, there are cliches that say, you know, luck is just really hard work, and I agree with that. I always strive to be the first one in the office and the last one to leave. Put in long days, work hard, and do the best you can to make as many clients as you can happy. Call them back, communicate with your clients, communication is key. But get into the office early, communicate well with your employees and your clients, and you'll do well.
Yeah. So again, thank you, David, so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
And you're always welcome back anytime. And hopefully, maybe I'll buy you some dinner one time when I'm in the city next time.
That'd be great. I'm here, always here. Thank you.
All right, there we go. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.